My name's Shannon, Susie. I'm 33. I'm a mother of 4 children. My views are 0 to 1,000 because I've had to, not by choice, live in every single shelter and transition house on the Lower Mainland. Not by choice, but because of drain flies infesting my house and it not being part of the land or the Landlord Residential Tenancy Act.
Yes.
Because it's private property. So even though pictures were provided of these flies laying eggs in my children's milk and on their blankets, there was nothing that they could do because it was on private property. And unfortunately, landlords, when they have a low-income person living in there, they find a way to hire a fake plumber at that time, which is his brother. And I signed away my life with 2 months notice and pretty much screwed myself and my children out of everything I owned.
Wow.
Because there was nothing that they could do. And not just that, moving to another place, even though there's a discrimination, they're not supposed to discriminate, they do, and they get away with it. And as soon as you say income assistance, I've learned to now get the residential tenancy actual contract, not the, you know which one I'm talking about, not the shelter form, but the other one.
Yes.
Because if I bring a shelter form, instantly they think you're going to destroy their house.
Yes.
You're going to use drugs. They don't even check your references. It's basically and finding a home that you want to be safe and you want to start out somewhere for your kids, and it's, I go to another place and it's bed bugs, and you're too afraid to tell that landlord that it's bed bugs because you are on income assistance and it's going to come back to you because they think you're dirty.
So that kind of sent you down the wrong road. Is that what?
No, actually, what sent me down the wrong road was my husband and I have been married for 12 years, and all 4 kids together. We planned to have our children.
Yes.
And we kept trying to move into a home, and then there was the same bad landlord, and it should be either way. The landlords are interviewing us to see for potential,
yes.
But at the same time I tell them, I need to gain trust with you too, because I've had really bad experiences, meth labs upstairs, and man beating his wife, it doesn't stop. And unfortunately, when, for instance, what changed my life was that income assistance, I had done my taxes for the first time with Liberty, and it was the very first time I'd done it not free. And what happened was that the lady had me signing a form that was to stop the direct deposit so they knew they got paid. And at the end of it, July 5th for GST came, and there was nothing for me and my children. And I said, What happened? They said, well, you didn't sign this paper. So within that whole month, arguments, no support, we have no family, we have 3 kids under the age of 6 years old in diapers, and we'd have nothing because they said we didn't file our taxes. Finding churches, finding this, ended up going back to them. They're asking for their payment, but I don't have payment because they made sure of that. MCFD got involved by my husband and I calling the police to stop an argument on our voluntarily, and MCFD gets involved automatically when it's an argumental thing, which now we regret to calling for help because it ended up in loss. Basically, I went back to Liberty Tax with the money, and they found the paper signed the entire time. And we ended up in that summer, we went homeless from July until September with 3 kids. We lived at our in-laws. We had Lookout Society find us a home above family, which was great. But the worker, because she opened and closed the file within a couple months. And we didn't want it to be closed. We wanted support. We needed the help. We said we got rid of all the negative support, and it came back that we have no support. They had told us to ask for help because it's shown a sign of strength, and it came back as we played a victim and needy. And anyway, we found it was great. It was a new start. We had school set up, we had daycare set up, he was registered for automotive school, and she would not keep our file open for support because she did not see a child protection concern. So we went on our own, but within the 3 weeks after we moved into our place, the same worker came and removed our children. Because I was alone while he was looking for work, and under very, very false pretenses, she did that. And she knew basically if she had done her job at the beginning to support, the apprehension would not have happened to begin with. And now she has said since then that she had offered us support services and that we had declined them. And even though I know that's a lie, my say is this, because I'm the bad parent in this situation. It's for my life.
So what are the next steps then?
Well, like since then, it's Tyson's been in 8 different foster homes.
Oh God.
And they've returned. I had my youngest Shelby to Maxine Wright, which is transitioning housing for pregnant women, and I did over 100 tests, drug testing for them, because the allegations were that I was using drugs at the time, which I had never.
Yes.
I smoked weed, that was it, and all of them came clean. They returned my baby from the hospital.
Yes.
And to Maxine Wright, and because the social worker that we had, she's also the director, multidisciplinary team of the children and family team leader.
Yes.
People that have authority and have too much say and too much pull abuse that power.
Yes.
And getting other people, other professionals to see that because they don't act the same in front of other professionals
Yes.
is extremely hard.
Yes.
And she wins in a lot of ways because she has the power of my heart in her hands, which is my kids.
Oh.
She's separated them, fighting back, even going to the ombudsman, like you guys were mentioning inside. The ombudsman doesn't deal with things that have gone to court. This has gone to court because MCFD is their own court.
Yeah.
And my kids have been split up numerous times. Shelby was removed because of the no contact order that our social worker put on us, deeming our husband dangerous offender, which he's never been to jail at all for anything, but then ended up doing 21 days in federal prison for a break and enter on his own house.
Oh.
For the sheriff not being convinced that he had enough belongings in the home at the time. We stayed with the 2-year contact order, no contact, and that because that no contact is the only reason that my kids stayed in care.
Oh, I see.
The
You
social
are really the
worker-
victim of many strange circumstances.
And I fought. I had the MLA involved. I had Bruce Ralston's office. I had the receptionist that allowed me to live at her home for 2 weeks while she fought for me because she saw the unprofessionalism. She ended up losing her position for conflict of interest from my social worker.
Oh my goodness.
It went on, but now because it's been so long, and my kids, I had got them returned to me. Shelby got removed at 19 days old because my social worker was in the area of where my husband was living. I have no contact. The odds of running into him after 11 years and 4 kids are pretty slim to not be able to say hello. And he happened to cross the street at the same time I was getting off the bus. She happened to be sitting there at the same time and removed my baby within 23 minutes of that time. Her lies went to court, but I still have no say.
Oh, goodness.
She was removed. I was kicked out of a very government-funded program, which is a pretty big program. I don't want to say the name, but they within 24 hours after having a C-section, my tubes removed, my baby removed. I was told to vacate everything, including a week later we're supposed to go to second stage housing, full return of all 4 of my children with no conditions.
Yes.
Was wiped off that and was forced to live outside on the street because they tried to steal my rent money, and had the welfare manager finally call them out and catch them in a lie in order for them to return it a month later after I'd already ripped my stitches open and healed them by myself on the street. Still being clean. Never touched anything. And I ended up staying with their dad. He breached again because he wasn't going to see me sleeping on the street. And
He breached for really not a...
Yeah, because he's not going to see his family,
Yes.
me, suffer. So that was 11th time in a year he had gone in and out of jail, which comes to the other part, the survival guide.
Yes.
I got my oldest and my youngest returned to me into a 3-bedroom in Delta in December of 16. So it was about
That's great.
4 months later. But my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old remained in Fort Langley with the foster parents because they didn't want to overwhelm me and wanted to have a gradual return of the other 2.
Sure.
Unfortunately, my social worker had no intentions of returning them, and she didn't think I could handle all 4 kids on my own. And after suffering 4.5 months in the snow by myself because I was not allowed to have support because she would remove them for anything, I ended up giving them to voluntary care because I didn't want to see my 2-year-old Savannah stop breathing every Thursday from separation. She went through so much, and my son was asking me why I didn't want him home at 4 years old. And
That's heartbreaking.
not seeing them for Christmas because they said they couldn't arrange a ride. But all of this is because somebody has more say than they should, and nobody takes the time to look at facts and read into things. And I'm not just talking this, but I'm saying there's suffering. There's people suffering out of the street, and I started using drugs after I put the kids into voluntary care, because she cut off all communication since that day. When she told me that to my son, that I would going to the island and Mom would talk to you in a few days. It's been a year and a half. And my oldest is suffering the most because he was put on Ritalin for ADHD, and I've kept every document in the world. I fought with legal aid from the lawyer that I had, because there was my husband's lawyer fighting for me with a no contact order, which was a conflict of interest. Crown ignored it. There's so many wrongdoings of poverty, and now that I'm in this situation, we've signed a continuing custody order for our kids, but I'm sleeping outside with my husband in a tent on and off, because we're waiting to get into a proper recovery home. And when it comes to detoxing, they don't tell you how things go, and I'm just supposed to know. And I've never been a user of drugs, so how would I know that? My resources are great outside of addictions, and they don't tell you that when basically him and I had gotten 15 days clean, and we were proud, and we were trying to get into treatment. Going to treatment, you have to put it on a wait list. Sometimes it can take 6 months. We don't have 6 months. And if you go to Quayside, at a detox center, first they can fast track you into there. When we called there, we'd been on a wait list since August, which was 4 months later. We'd been on the wait list. They said, congratulations for being clean, but after 5 days, we will turn you away for being clean. And so basically recycling, because just go buy a bunch of drugs and, and to numb the pain. We can't pay for rent and go find a home when we need to pay it to treatment center. So we're stuck.
Why do you have to pay for treatment at Quayside?
It comes out of recovery. Recovery house. Comes off of your rent, which is $570 for 2 people. Regardless, we'll make it work. Him and I make it work, right? But impossible standards. Right now, we're stuck, and there aren't. I've lived in every single shelter and transition house in the Lower Mainland, unfortunately. And sometimes the one that we were just at recently was in Cloverdale, which is also another big operation. But I was in the hospital for 4 days with pneumonia. Our housing worker knew, and then kept in contact with them. My husband kept in contact with them. We had a couple's bed. He was there for me. I got back there in the middle of about 11:30 at night, and they gave my bed away. In the middle of Cloverdale, where they don't give you bus tickets. You're not allowed to bring food in. If you miss lunch, breakfast, too bad. You gotta wait now till dinner. You starve. But I got back there with still my hospital bracelet on, and they turned me away without even allowing access to my belongings, with pneumonia in the middle of the night by myself in the middle of Cloverdale, to go into a cloud with no lights on my bike, with a pneumonia, to go nowhere. And then called other people liars and misstepped the story. But once again, I finally was newly out of denial and told the truth about my drug use, because I wanted the help. I don't want to die. I don't want this life. But unfortunately, I'd rather do a line and watch my back, not get raped, not get my stuff stolen, not get beaten, not everything, because sometimes that's what happens. And that's what I mean by living. There's a street mentality, and the street and the drug world. I don't use drugs because I want to. I use drugs because they're more accessible than food is. And when there is food around, like the front room, they cancel it out. Asking for help from places, your resources run out. And when I was trying to survive with my kids, I used every resource in the world for them. Now that I'm alone and suffering, I don't have any more resources left. They don't let you keep going back like that, because they question whether you're telling the truth or not. And even when you are telling the truth, they don't care. And talking to certain workers that don't know where you're coming from, I have workers in my life now that actually have a heart, but they came from a life first, right? And they actually, even if they haven't come from a life, they listen to you. The other ones don't. And income assistance, they don't help you get off of it. Even getting $20 from a family member, they want you to report that $20. $20. Like, how really far is that going to get you?
So Shannon, your experience really illustrates how poverty, addiction, the state, the family services, all of these things, police,
Not having-
courts, all of these intersect to
Everything.
create.
I'm using drugs now because it keeps me going.
Yeah.
And I'm living in a dangerous places where I don't have places to go to store some proper food.
Yeah.
I don't have an address so I can go to access the food bank, because you need to prove that you have an address to go to the food bank. Even for, like, if you want to go to work, I have a student loan that I had for makeup school before I had family, and because of that, because I was homeless after that and didn't get a piece of mail for relief to pay it back.
Yes.
Relief time, you have 6 months.
Yes.
I didn't get that. Too bad for me. And you're not eligible to just get help like that. And you're not. And now I don't ever get GST. I don't ever get anything like that. I don't get extra little payments here and there.
So what are your next steps, you think?
Right now we're just waiting. Him and I are a shield together. We've been through so much, but it's not even us. We've never even cared what we've gone through, because we can handle it. Like, we can handle it. We've caused a lot of stress on our own, yes, and we take responsibility for our own actions.
Yes.
And we'll admit to our wrongdoings, but it's time that the government admits to theirs.
Sure.
Because not once in sitting in a meeting does,
And perhaps should reunify you with your family. I mean.
not just reunify, but the fact that my kids have been through so much trauma.
Sure. Yeah.
And they've been split up numerous times.
Yes.
And because I'm poor and have no family, I don't have my family.
Yes.
And it's because they basically have said that, and I was, it's now I don't even know where my kids are right now. And it's all because this one worker, she's unfortunately, the trail, they think that you don't. I'm not a judge, I'm not a lawyer, but I have some common sense. And when you put pieces together after a certain amount of time, I never walked into a courtroom my whole life until that first day that my kids were removed. Now I walk into the courtroom and the Crown Counsel knows that I'm going to cause something because I know my rights. And I don't care what they do, because I don't have anything left. They've taken everything from me. After having 3 homes ready for the kids, free resources. I mean, I know more. I don't call 211 because I know more than they do.
So just as a final comment, what do you think about today's meeting, today's conference?
I think that
some final thoughts.
I think that the points of everything that's been made has been they're awesome.
Yeah.
The start of the points, but there's a lot of cracks in the stuff that have been said, because there's a lot of cracks in it.
There's work to be done.
There's work to be done just because the insider, the little, like, in betweens of the stuff, as in the daycare stuff, the last piece.
Yes.
It's great and dandy when you don't have the risk, the fear for someone to go up to someone and say, I have a problem, I need help, I want to get on the right path, and I need to help to set all this up without losing my whole life while I'm doing it. You can't pick a job or your kids, and that's what they make you do. Or a job or your home, and that they don't, it's that or nothing, and that's where it needs to stop. So they're great ideas, but they need work.
Okay.
And just one last question.
Sure.
You mentioned you know more than 211. You mentioned your Facebook page.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that briefly?
The Shannon Survival Guide. I started because of the Story Survival Guide, being out there and always having the same resources. Sometimes the resources are not any help because they're either closed, don't exist
Or out of
anymore,
date.
Out of date,
Yeah.
are not, they're not realistic, as in some boys, like I have one section of my survival guide where it's boys turning into men. So ages, 13 to 16, where they're by themselves. These kids, they don't know anything else. And they end up in jail because no one wants to hire them because they don't have experience.
Yeah.
Second language, the barriers and the things that they're sending you to, they have no idea how much it hurts to collect cans and be lurked on and looked down upon by everybody around you, because you're picking up a can to go to these places to feed yourself. And the people that are taking everything, they're saying that we're a disturbance and that we're thieves, but really the cops and everyone are the ones that are the thieves, because they come and we save up things for months in tents, and city and bylaw will come over one day because we're out looking or going to furnish a home, come back and everything's gone in the garbage.
Yeah.
after months of preparing for yourself to do that, who's the thieves, right? And it's not just your stuff, it's your life.
And that's the Shannon Survival Guide, right, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, no, thank you.